Okay, it's now 4:05, and today is January 30th, Thursday, for a special meeting at the Ministry of Sunshine. We have one, two, three, four people that I see, five, and, at this point, not even a quorum. Now, mind you, this is a committee that is supposed to have 11 voting members on it to make a decision. A full board hearing must be complied with in order for them to issue a valid decision. Otherwise, it can be turned around at a later point in time. Now, when I spoke to you priorly about the Ministry of Sunshine and the nuclear winter, it will become apparent how much they're in the pocket of the city.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to. Whoa, one moment. Welcome. Did I get to hit my gavel again?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, City and County of San Francisco. Special meeting, January 30th, 2014 at 4:06 p.m. We have a quorum of 6. And roll call. Let's start with roll call.
On the call of the roll.
I almost said Madam. Mr. What do I call you? Mr. Clerk?
Yes, that will do.
Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Clerk Victor Young.
This is the meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force for January 30th, 2014. The time is 4:05 p.m. On the call of the roll. Member Nee?
Here.
Nee present. Member Washburn?
Present.
Washburn present. Member Pilpel?
Present.
Pilpel present. Member Sims? Sims absent. Member David? I did receive an email from Mr. David. He cannot make it today due to child care issues. Member Hyland?
Present.
Hyland present. Member Oka?
Present.
Oka present. Vice Chair Fisher?
Present.
Fisher present. I would like to announce that we did have more items on today's agenda, but there was continuance requests, and I did remove 3 additional items due to a continuance request.
Okay, thank you.
And can you call Member Green? Yes.
Oh, my apologies. Chair Grant, I was informed by Chair Grant that she could not make today's meeting.
Okay, well, I did a quick, let's check to see who's actually here. Item number, or file number 13033.
No public comment about the absences?
I don't normally take public comment on absences.
It's not required. We did last time.
Thanks, we'll get to that, but for now, we're not taking anything out from the floor. Do I have,
But we will get to
Barry
it.
Toronto here today? I do not. I see I have Ms. Datesh.
Hi.
And I have Mr. Hartz. So we can't exactly move into item number 2 unless I have a motion from someone to move things around.
To Victor, it wasn't in the packet. I assume that we made the regular notification, so,
The applicants were notified.
okay,
I mean, the payments were notified for today's meeting.
okay. Sometimes it's helpful to have that so they can't.
The question is, when were they notified?
Okay. If Mr. Toronto's here, not here, so we do have Mr. Hart. Check on the others.
Everyone's here. No one else is here.
So I guess I would suggest that we move up item 4 and wait to see for a little bit if Toronto's here.
Yeah, I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt, and then we can decide. Oh, the Arts Commission is here. I know in the past we've moved to the next one, but it's early. Let's give them one more time. So I need a motion.
I think you can just do that
Oh.
without objection,
Okay.
unless someone wants to move it.
We're going to move item number 4, 13034 in place of item 2. Any objections? Seeing none,
Public comment on the motion?
that is correct. I will take public comment. You can take public comment.
Thank you, Roberta Boomer. Speaking on behalf of the MTA, this is the second time that this matter has been before you, and the first time it was before you, Mr. Toronto was not here as well, so I would request that, out of respect for my time, that we set a time certain so that I'm not here until the very end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the task force, Ray Hart, Director of San Francisco Open Government, and I'm kind of noticing a pattern that is developing.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Should we not be taking the jurisdictional question first?
We haven't even gotten to,
On 13034, or are we still on public comment?
we're still on public comment.
My apologies, sir.
The idea that someone who happens to be first on the agenda, this should be continued or something else is not responsible. And I say that because, as I said earlier, or started to say, I've noticed a pattern that has started to develop. I was in Florida visiting my 85-year-old mother and my sister, and I got back to find an email saying that my case I had been notified that a case that I had coming up was going to be dismissed unless I responded within 5 days, and obviously the 5 days had already expired. I do not believe that it is good public policy to tell a complainant that unless you respond immediately, then we're going to dismiss your complaint without any further discussion. I do not see that attitude with the city, where the city doesn't respond within their 5-day window to a complaint that is filed with them. They take their sweet time, and I have yet to see anybody say that the city's case the city should then be given special treatment. These cases should proceed until such time as the defendant, or excuse me, the complainant says, I don't want to continue, or is we're unable to contact him. It is not due process of law to simply say to somebody, if we don't hear from you. Now, the second thing is, from this board's own history, your commission does not start on time very often. You are often late as much as a half an hour, and I do not think it's unreasonable to assume that some members of the public don't bother to say, I'm going to show up at 4 o'clock because I know they're going to start at 4 o'clock, when they know the history is much the opposite and they're much more likely to start later. So continuing this item would be, I think, a miscarriage of justice. I think it should be allowed to continue to move to another point on the agenda until such time as it is very clear the person is not going to be here, and then at that time, continuing it to a future date would be appropriate. Given, and this is especially important, I think, given that this agenda is so light and the task force is so far behind on cases. I have at least 5 cases now, which I filed last year, and are all past the 45-day limit. And as a result, you can't arbitrarily just start saying, well, we're going to put 3 cases on an agenda, and if one of them doesn't show up by the time 4 o'clock comes, we're going to take it off the agenda.
Hello, my name is Jason Grant Garza, and I too have a public comment in regard to what Mr. Hartz was saying, and I agree with him wholeheartedly on all of this. I also have had, IDRs and stuff out for quite a long time and have not been handled correctly. My answers have not been responded to. My requests have not been responded to. And so I really feel that at this particular point in time, to not give the complainant the maximum latitude given the nature of this body and its past failures. Oh, and by the way, didn't the complaints used to be heard afterwards in the agenda? So that's also been changed. So, there's been a lot of things that have changed. It's just an interesting thing, when we talk about due process, You know, when you said that the special meeting stuff was sent out, when was it sent out? Was it last week? Was it the week before? Has it been out for a whole month? I was never notified that there was going to be a meeting of the task force. Fortunately, I look at the website. You know, I think that needs to be answered, you know, because once again, the devil is in the details.
Thank you. Oh, wait, any more public comment?
No, this is just kind of blinding us, so.
Oh, sorry. Any more public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment, and let's move on to item number 4, file,
Item number 4, file number 1.
I'll put my glasses on so I can actually see, 13034, go ahead.
Complaint filed by Ray Hart Sr. against Thomas Mizuko, Police Commission for allegedly violating Sunshine Ordinance 67.15D, public testimony thereby abridging or prohibiting public criticism.
Member Mead, did you have a jurisdiction question?
Not a jurisdiction question, but it's obviously, it's the matter we need to take up first.
Do you make a motion? Member Neal?
Member Mead, did you want to make a motion?
Move to find jurisdiction,
Okay, thank you. Can we call that passed without objection? Everybody agree?
public comment.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Sorry. Any public comment to that motion? That motion specifically?
Once again, my name is Jason Grant Garza, and yes, I do have a comment on that motion specifically. I've read your bylaws and everything else, and it says that at all times, for example, the chair must be at the meetings. I don't see the chair. I see the vice chair.
You're talking on whether we're accepting jurisdiction.
Yeah, this is regarding this is public comment on jurisdiction for this item on the.
Well, and that is my point. I don't think you're constituted as a full committee to be listening to this. There isn't a full board here. You don't have the jurisdiction to do it.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this motion? Seeing none. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear the case. We're going to start with the respondent. Oh, sorry, the complainant gets 5 minutes to make their case. If there's any members of the public that want to introduce facts, they'll do that. He or she will sit down. The respondent will get up to give 5 minutes. Any members of the public that are here that want to introduce facts will be able to do that. And then the task force will discuss it. So that whole intro was as much for you as it was for me.
First, we need to dispose of the motion without objection.
I thought we already did.
We did not.
Crap. Can we pass that without objection?
The question of jurisdiction, I believe the motion was moved by member Mead, seconded by member Feltel to find jurisdiction. I believe, is there any objection to that? There is no objection.
Okay, so we are going to move forward with item 4. What? 4. Yeah, I believe Mr. Toronto just walked in the
Yes.
room. Yeah, we are going to take you next because we just started on the item after yours. So have a seat and we'll get to you. Okay, Mr. Hartz. The complainant, you have 5 minutes.
Members of the task force, I'd like to just very briefly cover some things that are in your packet, and I hope that all of you have had a chance to review. This case is specific against Thomas Mizuko as the president of the police commission. Mr. Mizuko, in my first meeting at the police commission, sat up there and told me, oh, you're not allowed to talk about certain things, and he was found in violation by this task force for that. I subsequently found out that Mr. Mizuko is a practicing attorney. He is a former prosecutor. He has a law degree. And I think it's fair assumption that he understands the First Amendment, the Brown Act, and the Sunshine Ordinance, especially given
This
that
is
he's
the
been
police
through the
commission that I
training
tried to get a
7
meeting with.
times. Now, what Mr. Mizuko likes to do is when he can't stop you, he will then try to interrupt you. And he has done that on several occasions at the police commission, telling me, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, and that's against our rules or whatever. All of which I honestly feel he had absolutely no justifiable basis for, and I told him that, and he backed down. In this latest case, I went before the police commission, and I had read a report that was put out by the Office of Citizen Complaints, and I made a comment which is included in your packet, where I talked about the fact that 10 years ago the civil grand jury had done a study of this, and et cetera, et cetera. And I basically said this is really something that is meaningless for people who actually have to participate, who have filed a complaint with the OCC against the police department.
Boy, does it sound like me.
And I ended up my comment with a quote from Macbeth from Shakespeare. This is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I had been very careful to say that what I was talking about was the report, because year after year they come up with a report that has a lot of statistics in it which really tell you nothing. Now, one of the members of the commission, Mr. Sturman, Commissioner Sturman, got my comment, because his comment was, well, I don't understand, I don't know about the quote from Shakespeare, but Mr. Hartz has a point. After I had finished comment, Thomas Mizuko jumped to his feet and yelled, "You can't insult the member of the OCC, the director, you're doing this and you're doing that." In other words, he accused me of doing something which I don't feel he really knew, he knew I was not doing. And I think it is nothing but an attempt on his part to abridge public comment by intimidating people. In fact, the way the whole thing went down, I was intimidated. You know me, it takes a lot. I haven't been back to a police commission meeting since then. The bottom line is abridging public comment is not simply limited to saying to someone, I'm going to stop you from making the comment, or I'm going to interrupt you in the comment. It is, I think, including an atmosphere where you set an example that others will see, where if you get up and say something they don't like, they will do something to malign you. And this is a pattern I've experienced. I think all of you remember that Jewel Gomez, the president of the Library Commission, actually went to the police department regarding one of my public comments and said I had threatened her. She was later quoted, and this was posted on the library's website, and these are her words, not mine, saying, "I know 12 people who could fucking bury him." So basically what happens is if you make public comment and they don't like it, and they know that you know the Sunshine Ordinance enough not to be cowed by that, now they start to do things which I think the effort is to set up a thing where they can say, well, Mr. Hartz is unreasonable, therefore he shouldn't be allowed in City Hall or to attend public meetings. Now, the last thing I'll say here is that Inspector Monroe, who is the Secretary of the Police Commission, is here to represent Mr. Mizuko. And I'll tell you right now, Mr. Mizuko is not here because he is an attorney and he knows what he did was wrong. He didn't come the last time either. And number one, I think it is really dishonest for someone like him, who is an attorney, to use, or in this case, abuse the power of his position and then send somebody else to try to represent. So I would like you to also consider not sending a knowledgeable person, because the inspector, no matter how good he is, cannot answer for Mr. Mizuko for his own behavior.
Thank you. And not so fast, Inspector.
Well, I'm just gonna
Do we have
say the
any members of the public who will get 3 minutes each to introduce any facts and evidence in support of Mr. Hartz? Okay, seeing none, then Inspector, I think you start there. As a respondent, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm simply going to submit my written response to Mr. Hart's complaint, and just a couple of comments. I won't take up most of the 5 minutes, but regarding the comment that Mr. Hart made, a tale told by an idiot of sound and theory and signifying nothing. A tale can't tell itself. So that was directed at Ms. Hicks. I was there at that meeting and I saw that. I also submitted, as an exhibit, a DVD copy of our Wednesday, May 8th, 2013 commission meeting. And also, Mr. Hartz had completed his 3 minutes of public comment when he got up there. So he wasn't abridged. Commissioner Mizuko did not cut him off. He was allowed to say what he had to say in his time limit. And he basically told you what he said. Now direct assault on Ms. Joyce Hicks, OCC. And I'll submit that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So now, are there any members of the public that want to introduce facts or evidence in support of Inspector Monroe? Seeing none, I will turn it over to the task force members. I will start with Member Neat.
Mr. Hart, please. Just a quick yes or no question. You heard the inspector say you were allowed to complete your remarks, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Inspector, please.
Yes.
You said that Mr. Hart's remark was directed at Ms. Hicks. Did he actually name Ms. Hicks?
He did not, but he glanced in her direction. And again, when you make
Did
a
not.
statement,
I did not look at him, that's a lie.
when you make a statement,
Thank you for the
now again,
sunshine.
repeated, a tale told by an idiot. Well, the tale doesn't tell itself. Somebody told the tale. He looked at Commissioner Mizuko and he glanced over at Ms. Hicks. And I was there at that meeting.
Okay, one further question. One further question, sir. Can you tell us why Mr. Mizuko is not here to represent himself?
I'm the respondent. I'm the police commission secretary. I'm the respondent for all the commissioners in acts such as these.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Member Pilko?
Two things. I would note that we've got Roberta Boomer here for the MTA board, so it is not unusual for the commission secretary to represent the commission. That's occurred many times before. I'm just wondering out loud, I don't want to take more than 3 minutes to discuss it. If we have the DVD here, is it possible to view it, and is it worth viewing? Would that be appropriate evidence? Are we able to do that?
Excellent idea.
I have not seen it, so, you know, again, I don't want to debate it for more than 3 minutes, but if we can, it may help us. I don't know.
Excellent idea.
While we're getting that set up, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to remind you, under 6714, you have the right to put forward proceedings. You do not have the right to sit there and make commentary over that or disrupt proceedings. I'm hearing it all the way over here, and I know the people at this stand.
I will sit over here
Consider this your
and be
first
more
warning.
quiet.
If you cannot be quiet and record, you'll be escorted out. Am I clear? Thank you.
I'm clear. I'm quite clear on your intentions.
Thank you. You answered that.
Thank you, Member Highland. And on that note, I'll repeat what I was told yesterday at the assessment appeals hearing. Any conversation in the gallery, try to keep it to a minimum because it really does bounce over and back. So thank you, Member Highland. Mr. Clerk, that'll show up on our screens.
Momentarily, one second. If you would like to take other questions while I do this up,
Yeah, I'm happy to defer.
Yeah. Member Washburn and then Member Sims.
Through the chair, through the chair, I have a question for DCA Polak. Oh, okay. He wrote our memo, so